Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to get you truly well-informed on today's most fascinating topics. Today, we're tackling a really fundamental challenge. How do we actually measure quality?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but it pops up everywhere, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Grading papers, checking product reviews, even just understanding if an AI's output is any good.
Exactly. And getting evaluation right is critical, but honestly, it's incredibly difficult.
It really is. It's this constant balancing act. You've got human experts on one side, great at nuance, context, all that deep understanding.
But slow and expensive, and maybe not always consistent person to person.
Precisely. And then on the other side, you have these automated metrics, things like BLE or OOJ scores you hear about in AI. Super fast, super scalable.
But they're kind of shallow, right? Mostly just counting word overlap.
Pretty much, they miss the real meaning, the actual quality. They fall short.
So imagine trying to get humans to label, say, thousands of chatbot responses. The sheer scale. It's just exhausting, and the cost would be huge.
Impossible, really, for many applications. So you're stuck in this dilemma. Do you want human insight or machine scale?
And that tension leads us somewhere really interesting. What if the AI could be the judge itself?
Now you're getting to it.
That's where things get exciting. Today, we're diving deep into this idea of LLM as a judge, basically using large language models as the evaluators. Our mission here is to unpack what that actually means. How does it work? What are the maybe surprising upsides? And crucially, what are the drawbacks? Where does it go wrong?
Right.
By the end, you should have a really comprehensive picture of this whole field without getting totally overwhelmed by jargon. You'll get a sense of whether we can genuinely trust an AI to judge quality and what quality even looks like to a machine.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is LLM as a judge? Fundamentally, it's using a large language model to evaluate something, an object, an action, a piece of text, a decision based on rules or criteria you give it.
So like teaching it a rubric.
Sort of, yeah. It's like the machine gains this capacity for judgment, deciding if something fits a particular rule or standard. It's AI stepping into roles we usually reserve for human experts, graders, critics, reviewers, verifiers.
That feels like a big shift, not just generating stuff, but judging it. So, okay, it helps with the scale problem, but what's the real advantage beyond just, like, replacing people?
Well, the really transformative part is that these LLMs can actually mimic human-like reasoning processes. It's not just dumb automation. It's aiming for intelligent automation.
Okay.
And that's valuable for a couple of key reasons. First, it's potentially way more cost-effective, and it scales almost effortlessly. Think about academic peer review submissions are exploding. LLM judges could help manage that volume while still trying to maintain a high standard of evaluation.
So you're saying it's kind of bridging the gap. It gets the scale of the automatic scores, but with the more detailed, context-aware reasoning we used to only get from humans?
That's the goal, exactly, combining those strengths. And what's more, these systems are pretty flexible. They can handle different kinds of data, even images and video alongside text, if you set them up right with the right prompts or fine-tuning.
That sounds pretty powerful. So how does it actually work under the hood? What's the process?
Well, at a high level, you've got input design, figuring out how to ask the question, then model selection, and finally processing the output. But the real core, often, is in crafting that rubric, which leans heavily on something called in-context learning, or ICL, and really careful prompt design.
Okay, ICL, we hear that term a lot. What does it mean in practice here? How does it learn to judge?
It means the LLM learns the task from the prompt itself. You give it clear instructions, maybe some examples of good and bad outputs right there in the context. It figures out the pattern without needing a whole separate training phase.
Okay. Learning on the fly from the instructions.
Exactly. And there are a few main ways you get the LLM to actually make a judgment. One common one is just generating scores.
Like 1 to 5 stars.
Yeah, it could be discrete scores like 1 to 5, 1 to 10, or even continuous scores like 0 to 100. You tell it what criteria to score on, maybe helpfulness, relevance, accuracy. Think of it like filling out a detailed rating form.
Got it. Useful for a general assessment. What about simpler things?
For those, LLMs can just answer yes/no questions. Simple binary judgments, yes or no, true or false. Seems basic, but this is actually super important for AI self-improvement.
How so?
Well, imagine an AI trying to get better at a task. Getting quick, clear feedback like modification needed or no modification needed allows it to iterate and refine its own outputs much faster. It's a tight feedback loop.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned something earlier that sounded really key, pairwise comparisons. That feels
Different.
more human, maybe.
It absolutely is, I think. Pairwise is a relative evaluation. Instead of giving an absolute score, The LLM just compares two options, say two different summaries, and picks the better one.
A is better than B.
Exactly. And the research actually shows that LLM judgments tend to line up much better with human judgments in these pairwise tasks compared to when they're just assigning scores.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, it's often just easier for us and for machines to say A is better than B than it is to decide if A is objectively a 7 out of 10 and B is a 6. There are even different ways to do it, just picking one, allowing for a tie, or even distinguishing between a both are good tie and a both are bad tie.
That seems really useful for subjective things like judging creative writing or chatbot conversations, much more natural than a number. Any other judgment types?
Yep, there's also multiple choice selections.
Yeah.
The LLM chooses the best option from several provided. So maybe picking the most relevant paragraph from a list or the best translation. It allows for a broader assessment than just A vs. B.
Okay, so you craft this careful prompt, give it examples. What about the LLM itself? Doesn't matter which one you use. Can you just grab any model?
Model selection is definitely key. You can use the big, powerful general LLMs like GPT-4. They often act as really strong, high-accuracy judges right out of the box. Some studies suggest they can even be more consistent than human evaluators in certain tasks.
Wow, okay.
But if you have privacy concerns or need something super cheap and reproducible for a very specific task, you might look at fine-tuned LLMs. These are models like PandaLM or JudgeLM that are specifically trained to be judges for certain kinds of evaluations.
What's the trade-off there?
Well, they can be more efficient and tailored, but they might not generalize as well to tasks they weren't specifically trained on. So it depends on what you need, broad capability or specialized efficiency.
Right. So the LLM makes its judgment, gives a score, picks A over B, whatever. Is that it? Or is there cleanup involved?
Oh, yeah, there's usually a post-processing step. You need to refine the raw output. Sometimes you just extract specific tokens, like pulling out the yes or the number score using simple rules.
But language models can be kind of wordy or unpredictable sometimes, right?
Exactly. It might say response 1 is better one time, and the better one is response 1 the next. So clear prompts or providing examples, few shot learning helps make the output more consistent.
Are there fancier ways to handle the output?
Definitely. You can use constrained decoding to force the output into a specific format, like JSON. Makes it easy to parse automatically.
But does that mess with the model's thinking?
It can slightly distort the model's natural way of expressing things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another technique is normalizing output logits. That's basically looking at the model's internal confidence scores for different words and turning that into a continuous score, maybe 0 to 1. Useful for seeing how sure it is.
Okay.
And finally, for tasks where you need the reasoning, the LLM might actually select full sentences or paragraphs to explain its judgment, rather than just spitting out a score.
Got it. That's a great breakdown of the mechanics. So now that we understand how it works, let's talk benefits. What does this LLM as a judge approach really unlock? Why is it exciting?
Okay, benefit number one, hands down, is scalability. It's huge. LLMs can evaluate hundreds, thousands, potentially millions of outputs incredibly quickly, something humans just cannot do at that volume.
Right. If you're generating tons of content, you need a fast way to check it.
It's a game changer for iteration and quality control.
And I guess since AI models and tasks are always changing, being able to adapt the evaluation is important too. Is it flexible?
Absolutely. That's a major plus. Unlike those old, rigid metrics, you can easily refine your criteria with LLM as a judge. Just change the prompt. As you understand the task better, or as your needs evolve, you adapt the evaluation. Much more agile.
Like tweaking the rubric as you go. That feels very human. And you mentioned earlier how metrics like BLEU just count words. Does LLM as a judge give you more nuance?
Way more. This is where reference-free evaluation comes in, and it's a big deal. LLMs can assess subjective qualities that traditional metrics just can't touch.
Like what?
Like, is this text natural sounding? Does it sound human? Was this response actually helpful? Was it biased? These are things that are really hard to measure without a human, especially if there's no single correct reference answer to compare against.
Wow. So it's judging the quality in a deeper way, even without a perfect answer key. That's powerful. And it goes beyond just evaluation, too. You mentioned reasoning.
Yes. It's actually being used to enhance reasoning. Think of projects like OpenAI's O1 model or Anthropic's constitutional AI. The LLM as a judge provides feedback during the reasoning process.
Like an internal critic.
Exactly. It helps the AI reflect, catch flaws in its logic, and adjust its strategy, driving self-improvement on complex tasks. It's judging its own thought process.
That is genuinely fascinating. An AI refining itself based on judge principles. Okay, but nothing's perfect. Let's talk drawbacks. where do these LLM judges stumble? Can we really trust them?
Yeah, this is the crucial flip side. There are definitely significant reliability issues. Like humans, LLMs have blind spots. They have inherent biases that can seriously skew their judgments.
Okay, what kind of biases are we talking about?
Well, there are several known ones. A big one is positional bias. The model might favor an answer just because it appeared first or second in the prompt.
Seriously, just based on order?
Yeah. Studies show GPT-4 tends to like the first position, while ChatGPT sometimes prefers the second. It's weird, but it happens. Then there's verbosity bias or length bias.
Liking longer answers.
Right. It favors longer responses, even if they're just rambling or repetitive. Maybe thinking longer equals better. And maybe the sneakiest is self-enhancement bias.
It likes its own cooking.
Pretty much. An LLM might rate answers generated by itself more highly, regardless of quality. Plus, you see cultural biases, style biases like favoring certain tones or even emojis, and a concreteness bias where it might prefer answers with specific details or citations, even if those details are wrong.
So it's judging the wrapper, not the content sometimes. And what about confidence levels?
Yes, overconfidence is another issue. Especially models fine-tuned on instructions, they can give overly positive scores, particularly to their own kind of responses. This ties into generalization problems too, meaning the judgments aren't always stable. Change the prompt slightly, change the context, and you might get a very different evaluation. Prompt engineering is really sensitive here.
Okay, so internal biases and inconsistencies, are there external threats too? Like, can they be tricked?
Oh, absolutely. That's the robustness concerns. LLM judges can be vulnerable to adversarial attacks. Someone can craft subtle changes to an input that don't actually improve its quality, but do trick the judge into giving a much higher score.
Yikes, like finding magic words that fool the judge.
Essentially, yes. Specific attack phrases have been shown to inflate scores dramatically. This is obviously a huge problem if you're relying on these judgments for important decisions.
Definitely. And what about tasks involving more than just text? You mentioned multimodal earlier.
Right. That points to backbone model limitations.
Yeah.
Today's multimodal LLMs can process text, images, video, etc., but their ability to reason complexly across these different modes is still developing. Judging the interplay between image and text, for instance, is still hard for them.
So lots of potential pitfalls. Bias, inconsistency, vulnerability. This is clearly powerful, but definitely not a perfect tool yet. How are people trying to make these LLM judges better? What are the strategies?
Well, there are several approaches. A lot of effort goes into prompt design. Using few-shot prompting, giving good examples helps a lot. Also, breaking down the evaluation criteria.
How does breaking it down help?
Instead of just asking, is this fluent, you might ask it to rate grammar, engagingness, and readability separately. It forces a more fine-grained assessment.
Makes sense. And what about that positional bias, liking the first answer?
The key there is shuffling contents. You basically run the evaluation multiple times, swapping the order of the items being compared. If the preference flips when the order flips, you know you've got positional bias.
Clever. Okay, other strategies.
Fine-tuning LLMs specifically to be judges is another route. You train them on data sets where humans have already provided reliable evaluations. This can help reduce biases and make the judge better suited for a specific task.
And once the judge makes a call, can you improve things then?
Yeah, post-processing optimization. You could say, run the evaluation multiple times with slightly different prompts, or use multiple different LLM judges, and then take a majority vote. Kind of like having an AI jury.
A jury of AI judges. So we're basically judging the judges themselves to make sure they're fair and accurate. That's meta-evaluation.
That's exactly it. Researchers are constantly doing meta-evaluation. They measure how well the LLM judge agrees with human judges using stats like percentage agreement or Cohen's kappa. They test for all those biases we talked about. They check how robust they are against attacks.
And what are they finding? Is any particular model better?
Generally, yeah. Studies tend to show that the big models like GPT-4 often perform best across the board, showing fewer biases than many others. But it's complex.
How so? What's surprising?
Well, some things you'd think would help actually don't, or can even make things worse. For example, asking the LLM to explain its judgment.
You'd think explaining would make it more careful, more accurate.
Right. But sometimes it seems to have a negative impact. The thinking is that the process of generating an explanation might actually introduce new biases or let the LLM rationalize an initially biased gut feeling.
Whoa.
Yeah. And similarly, asking an LLM to self-validate its own judgment often doesn't help much either, possibly because of that overconfidence issue we mentioned. It just confirms its own potentially flawed first assessment.
Fascinating. It shows how alien their thinking can still be. Okay, so despite all these challenges and weird quirks, LLM as a judge is being used out there. Where are we seeing it in the real world?
Oh, it's definitely spreading. A major use case is evaluating other LLMs. Think of automating things like the chatbot arena, where models compete. This drastically speeds up benchmarking new models.
Makes sense. Using AI to judge AI. What about data prep? That's usually a huge bottleneck.
Huge help there. LLM as a judge is being used for data annotation, automating the labeling of massive data sets. If you can trust the judge, it saves enormous amounts of human labor and cost.
A really big shift from hiring armies of human labelers. And you mentioned its role in improving AI reasoning itself.
Yeah, that's profound. It's used in feedback loops during training, guiding agents to learn better strategies. It's core to ideas like OpenAI's O1 or constitutional AI, where the AI learns by having its reasoning process evaluated against principles. It's like giving the AI a conscience.
That's incredible. What about specific industries? Where are LLMs judging things day to day?
Applications are popping up all over. In NLP, obviously evaluating generated text dialogues, summaries, stories, also identifying hallucinations, checking for safety issues. In finance, people are exploring it for forecasting, spotting anomalies, refining trading signals, even things like credit scoring or ESG ratings.
And law.
Yep. In law, summarizing legal documents, assessing the relevance of facts in a case. In AI for science, evaluating answers in medical Q&A systems, checking mathematical reasoning, even helping with theorem proving.
Anywhere else that stands out?
Sure. Software engineering, summarizing bug reports. Education, think automated essay scoring or providing student feedback. Content moderation online, identifying harmful content at scale. Even behavioral sciences, maybe assessing user preferences. It's really broad.
Wow. Okay, so looking ahead, what's next? Where does LLM as a judge go from here?
Well, top of the list is making them more reliable. We need continued research on consistency, on making them better aware of their own uncertainty, and on mitigating those biases more effectively.
Got it. More trustworthy judges.
Second, expanding beyond text. MLLM as a judge, multimodal large language models as judges. We need systems that can evaluate content involving text, audio, images, video, and understand the interplay between them.
Judging the whole picture, not just the words.
Exactly. And third, we need better benchmarks. Just like ImageNet drove progress in computer vision, we need large-scale, diverse, challenging benchmarks to really measure how good these LLM judges are in different situations.
Makes sense. Measure what matters.
But fourth, we'll see more LLM as a judge used for LLM optimization, integrating them deeper into training pipelines like reinforcement, learning from AI feedback, RLAIF, using AI judges to guide AI self-improvement even more effectively.
And the really big picture, AGI. Artificial General Intelligence.
It's speculative, of course, but imagine combining a reliable LM as a judge with a sophisticated world model as a judge, an AI that simulates the world. If the judge can assess how realistic or desirable the simulated outcomes are.
It could help the AI build a better model of reality.
Potentially, yes. It could make AI simulations more grounded, more useful, maybe paving a path towards more general intelligence by allowing AI to effectively reflect on and improve its own understanding of the world through judged simulation.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. LLM as a judge, clearly a powerful paradigm. It offers scale, flexibility, nuance that we couldn't easily get before.
Right. Moving beyond old limits.
But it's definitely not a magic wand. We have to be really careful about reliability, those tricky biases, robustness against attacks.
Absolutely. It's a tool with huge promise, but it needs careful design, constant checking that meta-evaluation, and smart strategies to manage the risks. It's essential if we want to deploy it safely and effectively.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If LLMs get really good at judging, with nuance and scale, what does that mean for us, for human expertise? Do we stop being the judges?
Or do we become the architects of the judges? Maybe our role shifts to defining the principles, refining the criteria, ensuring the AI judges align with our values as they evolve.
A fascinating question. It suggests maybe augmenting human judgment, not just replacing it. Definitely keep an eye on this space. LLM as a judge is evolving fast and looks set to become a really fundamental part of the AI landscape. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.